The documentary is Social Dilemma, and it is all about how social media and digital era is basically the downfall of humanity. We are all fucked. The ball is rolling. The horse is out of the barn. There's no stopping it. We might as well just bow before our master, that is artificial intelligence and social media and digital power, and probably just kill ourselves because it's inevitable anyway that we're all going to die because of this. That's my takeaway from the Pokemon.
When they said AI is already here, when they used that example, they were like, everybody's afraid of the Terminator and the robots and the overlords that are going to come kill you. It's like the damage is being done currently. The computers are in, like warehouses and there's servers, and they just look like big black boxes, but they're already doing it, which makes a lot of sense. Like AI, if you really create the super intelligence that can manipulate you, you think they're going to build a body? You think they're going to like make human limbs and stuff like that? No, they don't do that. They're already attacking us. And
if things are already sort of out there, it's like anything else. It's like they've had this technology for years. It's like we've had we've had the spaceships and all that shit. You're maybe starting to see a little bit of it now. Or it's also like when like they say take 2 Advil, that means you could probably take like 30 because they're like, we got to handle them with kid gloves. So if there's any mention of it publicly, what's actually going on privately is like exponentially greater, further, worse, whatever. So that's where things are. So let me back up. The Social Dilemma has people from like Google and social media platforms and all these computer companies. They also have like just authors and guys. The one dude who has the dreadlocks down to like his ass, that guy I trust. Like that guy, he reminds me of like there's always one character in all these type of movies that's like the conspiracy theorist, or it's almost like in Independence Day, Randy Quaid being the guy who had been abducted. That was this guy for this.
Yeah, I like people who like don't even care about their general appearance, because then you don't think like and in any conspiracy theory documentary, you start to think like, well, wait a minute, what are you trying to do here? Like the ginger guy, I was like, well, don't you have an agenda here? Aren't you trying to push it? But the guy who's just like, I'm going to look absolutely ridiculous and like walk around outside like this, I'm like, you seem like you don't have an agenda because you don't even really care about your own appearance.
Part of that does feel freeing. Part of me wishes I could take the pill in the Matrix, because then you stop worrying about like everything else. You don't worry about your clothes, but even things like I'm so nervous, like, go try to negotiate with Dave. I'm like, I don't want to like be mad. I don't want to get like aired out publicly on our. If I thought that like the AI bots were coming and the world was over, I'd be like, I don't know. Hey, fucking. First of all, I probably wouldn't even ask for a raise because who cares? But second of all, I'd be like, whatever, dickhead. We're dead anyway.
Yeah.
So
well, according to this documentary, according to this documentary, it is happening.
When they asked him, they said like, well, what does this mean for like, what do you think this means? And he was like, you know what he was? This is my favorite moment in internet history. Literally, I know that I'm prone to hyperbole, and I know that I'm prone to saying I'm prone to hyperbole, but this really is my favorite moment. And if somebody out there can dig this up, I will be eternally grateful. I will literally pay you for this. The video of Johnny Damon addressing A-Rod's steroids allegations have been scrubbed from the internet. They asked Johnny Damon, what would be worse? Johnny Damon said, there's worse things in the world than steroids. And they said, what's an example, Johnny? And he said, well, murdering someone would be worse. It's like, yeah, John. Yes, Jonathan. Murdering someone is worse.
Yeah. Didn't Tom Glavine say something like that too? Like, where it was like, are you devastated? Yeah. And he said like, well, terrorism is devastating or something like that.
Like, yeah, fuck off. He was just like, there are worse things. Like, I'm going to go home to my family. Like, basically being like, yeah, my family wasn't massacred today. It's like, yeah, okay. We know that like, that didn't happen, but fuck, Tom. But the way that he said it was so blunt and over the top and so far beyond what the conversation was. They were just like, so what is this? What is all of this like trouble with social media mean? And he was like, I do believe it's extermination. I do believe it's extinction. I believe that it's the end of humanity. And it was like, whoa.
Well, and
point B in between. There's not right to extinction.
But it's funny. I mean, it's very one-sided, and they make a very compelling case. One of the things I found interesting was we're waiting for the point when technology overwhelms us, like overwhelms everything about us, but it's already overwhelmed our weaknesses. Like it's already figured out how to target the fact that you like getting likes, you like getting retweets, and it's we've already found a way to get you addicted. And then they address probably some of the objections, because I would think the objection would be like, we always say this, like people who thought that television was going to be the downfall and video games were going to be the downfall. But then they kind of try to preempt that by saying like the technology is like, we're basically like at a tipping point. So that was I don't know whether that's true or not.
I was legit thinking it. It was like what they talk about in that documentary with Alexa, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I was thinking it, and then it happened on the screen where I was like, do these motherfuckers even time out? Like around the 27-minute mark is when you start to have this thought, and we're going to hit them with this. Yeah. Because I did think to myself.
Because you think Netflix isn't doing all this stuff? Netflix is the same thing.
Absolutely. But I did have that thought of like, every time technology has changed, we have evolved. Every time the world has changed. The guy he brought up the printing press. You're going to tell me when all of a sudden Bibles got distributed everywhere that it wasn't going to like fuck with us? And
newspaper was never propaganda. Like sometimes it was. Sometimes it was authentic journalism, but sometimes it wasn't.
And we always just kind of like maybe each time we're a little bit lesser than we were as a culture. But we can prevail. We will not go quietly into the night. We're going to live on. But then they did say, like, the difference here is that technology is exponentially increasing to the point that, like, I don't even know what the number was measuring, but the graph chart went a straight line up, and it ended at 400 quadrillion.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't care what you're measuring. Anything that's at 400 quadrillion, we can't keep up with. And I thought what was really interesting was like he said, when you invented the car, you thought, okay, we're going to drive around now. And that's awesome. And then cars can now go like double the speed, triple the speed. And it's like, oh my God, people are dying. That's an unintended like consequence. And that sucks. But for the most part, we can adapt and keep up with the new speeds. And yes, it's a little more dangerous than we thought, but it doesn't like erase all the good. They said, so like, cars doubled in speed, not a big deal. Internet speeds and consumption and all that is up by 400 quadrillion% or whatever. And while all that has happened, things have doubled the speed, things have tripled in this and that and the other. The human brain, they said, has like barely moved.
Yeah. No, the human brains have not evolved. Like it's
that's not true though, right? Like, men couldn't like figure out like how to, if I went back to a caveman right now, he can't have the same intellect I have. I understand like in the big picture, the human brain hasn't evolved, but
I think that like the Homo sapien brain, not like the caveman Neanderthal, but like whenever you become human, if you hand them a phone, they don't get it the first day. But like that brain is the same brain as we have right now.
I guess like, wow. I mean, that's interesting to think. I mean, I guess that makes sense. It's like nothing else.
Yeah.
Maybe we grow a little. We grow more, right? We're like taller. We live longer, but the actual. It's not like hands are better or whatever. So
yeah. But a lot of that too, like even growth, even people being taller is like a lot of people have attributed that to nutrition. So like, we've gotten bigger like that. I guess you could think, well, maybe our brains have gotten better because of better nutrition. But basically what they're saying here and in a lot of places is like, we still have the fight or flight response. Like we are still governed by a lot of things like tribalism, things that you normally are scared of that. And it can help you once you recognize these things. Once you recognize that there's nothing to fear, when you realize that your brain is triggering don't do that. It basically comes down to tribalism and being ostracized. We want to fit in because if you got kicked out of your tribe,
you're dead.
Back then you would literally die now. But if you can acknowledge that and you go, I'm afraid of this, but I shouldn't be. So I'm going to, once you recognize that you can get past it, what they're doing is taking all the things that you don't realize are happening and preying on them. And they say that it started with like not really. It started with things that were not worse than basic sales practices. Like this is what salesmen have been doing since, any whenever you want to start a modern era. They were like, we this is how we try and sell things, and we buy billboards in the places that you pass by, and we remind you of things, and we mail you flyers. Like all of that is somewhat manipulative too. Mm-hmm. But the difference is now they're collecting so much feedback, so much data that they can basically program you, not just program the app. And that's where things sort of change, because you really don't realize that they're tracking your GPS and they're obviously listening to you. And that seems a little nefarious. But even if they play by those rules, all the things that you participate in give them so much data, let them build such an accurate profile. And then, people who are not just selling widgets are like, we're going to get you to think this way about a presidential candidate. And that's where everybody gets a little nervous.